had revealed how the security of our forces by Maoists had been put at risk because the National Technical Research Organization (NTRO) has refused the CRPF's request to place drones in areas where the Red Rebels are the most active. The government, instead of directing the NTRO to place drones in these areas, is giving the go-ahead to buy unmanned aerial vehicles, which means huge funds wasted because two organizations cannot coordinate and help each other. Well, another great example of just how lack of coordination between two government agencies means thousands of crores of rupees of your money will be spent by the government, and obviously there will be misconduct there as well. Jugal Purohit breaking that story. We'll get more details from him in just a while from now. A pitched ego clash between the NTRO and the CRPF has resulted in brave Jawans being deprived of the support of unmanned aerial vehicles when it comes to combating the Naxal forces. Worse, the Home Ministry is powerless to do anything about it. This is a Headlines Today exclusive report.
It's a classic story of Babodom and red tapeism, one that has killer ramifications. For years, the CRPF has been repeatedly requesting the NTRO to base its unmanned aerial vehicles to bases closer to remote areas worst affected by Naxalism. Unfortunately, the NTRO seems to be deaf to their pleas.
In this letter written in December 2011, the then DG of CRPF, K. Vijay Kumar, highlighted the intelligence edge that the UAVs brought to the CRPF's first UAV-aided operation. In the same breath, however, he also warned that if the NTRO continued to operate only out of Hyderabad, it would end up wasting and underutilizing these precious resources.
The government so far has restrained itself from publicly commenting on the issue.
Tell you one thing, you see, as far as this NTRO is concerned, because several questions have been asked in the parliament and the issues have been resolved, because don't ask this question, that question to me. As far as the NTRO is concerned, it has been functioning, it has been working very well.
But the Home Ministry had intervened in 2011, asking the NTRO to expedite the process of readying bases in the core areas.
Terming the NTRO's efforts as yielding extremely limited and skewed results, the then Home Minister P. Chidambaram wrote to the NSA Shiv Shankar Menon, to whom the NTRO reports, to salvage the situation. The Home Minister then was precise in demanding an increased crew strength to operate the UAVs and also shifting out of Hyderabad to areas suggested by the CRPF. Chidambaram yet again in April 2012 warned the NTRO to move out of Hyderabad within 2 months, but to no avail.
It is stationed in Hyderabad, which actually the range is not suiting the people, our CRPF people in Jharkhand or in Chhattisgarh. So there's a move to get it closer to these places.
In the end, the most disturbing fact remains that 3 out of 4 times our brave hearts facing the Maoists in the most inhospitable of terrains have been denied their most basic implements.
Why is the NTRO not responding to the repeated pleas by the CRPF and the Home Ministry? Does the NTRO value the comfort of its officials more than the lives of our brave hearts? And why? Just why is the centre not able to respond despite there being a case to rein in the NTRO? Jugal Purohit for Headlines Today in New Delhi.
I'm going to get you through to Jugal Purohit in just a moment from now. I want to get a quick reaction first from Major General Dhruv Katoch. He's Director at the Center for Land and Warfare Studies. General Katoch, how important is timely deployment of surveillance drones for our Jawans involved in anti-Maoist operations?
I think it is important to empower the troops on the ground as far as anti-naxal operations are concerned. They are doing a very difficult job, both the CRPF and the local police forces. But I'm not very sure whether giving them UAVs will empower them to the extent that they need to be empowered.
Jugal is now with me. Jugal is the journalist who's broken the story. Jugal, just explain to us what this wastage is all about. Why can't the NTRO and the CRPF simply sort matters out and coordinate so that money doesn't have to be wasted in the purchase of new drones.
Absolutely, Shiv. That's precisely the question, especially at a time when we have a defense cut which has not been seen for almost 35 years. Essentially, the story, Shiv, starts back in 2010 when as we are aware, the CRPF and the troops combating the Naxals suffered a spate of reverses, several lives lost. That's when, to bridge the intelligence gap, the government sanctioned the NTRO to come in with their fleet of UAVs, which can actually relay the live images on the ground, and that can in advance help the troops to launch a precise and proper operation by collecting the intelligence. Now, what has happened is the NTRO, which anyways was flying out of Begumpet Airport in Hyderabad, is unwilling to shift to areas which the CRPF and the state polices want. Now, unless they shift out, they're not able to either send their UAVs to the areas where the CRPF and the forces require, neither are they able to even give them every time that the forces want. So this is actually costing a huge wastage as far as the taxpayer money and the asset utilization is concerned. And Shiv, we are aware, even in the Latehar encounter in January, where 10 lives were lost, I was there on the ground. The Jawan said that had we got a UAV from somewhere, perhaps these things would not have happened. We would have turned the tables by having some prior intelligence. So this is the sort of criticality of the entire issue, where the intelligence is just not there. An asset which can deliver is not being delivered because of the lack of coordination. And the NTRO, which is actually under the Cabinet Secretariat, and the CRPF, which is under the Home Ministry, they are unable to get their act together. Shiv, I am aware that the Home Minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram, back then had also tried his best to shift these UAVs out of Hyderabad to other areas, but the NTRO would just not budge. Shiv?
Jugal, does this mean, very quickly, does this mean the CRPF is now, floating an effort to acquire its own capability in terms of drones?
Well, Shiv, the sad answer to this is yes. In fact, it's not the CRPF, but we have documents to show that the Home Secretary, Mr. R.K. Singh, has in fact instructed the CRPF that they now need to get rid of the dependency on the NTRO and Indian Air Force in as many terms. This only goes to show the bitter animosity which is existing, and with the Home Secretary telling this to the CRPF has in fact initiated its side of the ball, and they have started floating tenders for all these assets, clearly, which will cost a bomb, which will take a lot of time to actually be trained and used, and in the meanwhile, we'll continue losing lives like this, Shiv.
Jugal, stay with me. Former Director General of the BSF, Prakash Singh, is with us. Mr. Singh, thanks for speaking the headlines today. We've just exposed here, sir, through letters and documents that we've gotten our hands on, that the Home Ministry is now considering acquiring its own unmanned drone capability simply because the CRPF and the NTRO apparently simply cannot get their act together and coordinate in an efficient manner. Sir, what do you think?
Well, if what you're saying is true, I think it's most unfortunate. I mean, NTRO and CRPF should be able to coordinate, and just for want of coordination, if we have to have a separate wing of, a fleet of drones, just because the two can't get together, that would be very unfortunate. It would lead to overlapping of resources and avoidable expenditure. After all, the CRP is engaged in a national mission, and the NTRO is also to promote national interests, and the two should be able to get along. I don't understand why they can't.
Mr. Singh, isn't this really typical of the multifarious agencies in the country? I mean, take for example, even in terms of surveillance, there are at least 9 separate agencies in the country that operate unmanned aerial vehicles for surveillance, including, of course, the armed forces. Isn't it slightly frightening that there is such a lack of coordination, even though the capability already exists in all of these agencies?
Yes, I mean, it is, well, if not frightening, it is definitely very disturbing.
Yes.
That, even between the Army and the Air Force, there was a lot of tussle over an air wing.
True.
And the Army wanted a separate air fleet, and they were not able to coordinate with the Air Force, so Army has got its own air component. This kind of thing, it should, I know turf wars are there, but it should be possible for people sitting at the top to coordinate these things and set matters right. You see, this kind of duplication, overlapping, as I said, leads to unnecessary waste of national resources, apart from the fact that it doesn't speak well of our capacity to put our heads together and our resources together in pursuance of a national objective.